Hey, Lance here, the Vintage Speaker Audiophile. Tonight I wanted to take you through a single testing track that I use that is my favorite for imaging in Soundstage. This is a binaural audio recording of the Nutcracker suite by this small ensemble. Binaural as in there is two microphones set up with a head in between them to represent what a real three-dimensional person, would hear as the sound gets to his head and folds around his head and goes from one ear to the next. That's a whole topic on itself, and we can't address that right now. But let's just say that when it comes to like imaging and soundstage, it really should represent best what a human being would hear at a particular show like this. Now, there's two aspects of this video I want to talk to you about before I start it, and we're going to listen to it, and I'll point out things in it. But the two things are, first of all, the best part of this video is the entry. It's not the concert, it's nothing like that, but there's just this entry clip that plays some strings, but it plays it in a circular soundstage. It starts out right here and then works its way around to the left and keeps going. And if you have a good set up system and you're sitting in the sweet spot, you're going to hear this signal go all the way around behind you and forward again. It's just a very unique experience if you've never heard it before. So, again, I'll take you through that and I'll describe it a little more. Second of all, soundstage in a good system is three-dimensional. I mean, a lot of people think soundstage can't go beyond the width of the speakers, and that's simply not true at all. And this is a good example of this. What you're going to hear is what reflects what the person would be hearing as close to they are as they are to the instruments. And as such, the instruments on the left are far outside the speaker. Instruments on the right are far outside the right. Your soundstage is nearly 90 degrees in this particular case. So that's something I want to show you as well. So let's take a look at it. Again, now this first part is where you really want to hear this circular motion of the audio. Okay, that was a perfect circle in my system here, but now I've got a good setup. I'm set up with JBL L5s, near field. I got a nice little tube amp running. I've got right now one of the best imaging and soundstage setups I've ever had. So the three-dimensional aspect of this is real strong. Okay, next we're going to hear a little bit of the Nutcracker by this small ensemble we have here. We have violins on the left, we have reeds and flute on the right. In the back center we have a bass, we have a cello in the left back center. And I mentioned before, this is a binaural recording, so we have a dummy here with a head, and he's got microphones where his ears are. Now, I'm not going to say this is the best sounding recording you're ever going to hear, because it's not. The quality of the microphones they used in this particular binaural recording, they're not top of the line, that's for sure, because the quality of the recording isn't all that great, but the imaging and soundstage is precise. And that's what we're looking at here. We're not looking at whether the quality of the recording is all that good or not. We're looking at how the imaging and soundstage is. So I'm going to play some more, and I'm just going to point to where I hear things as I play them. And I want you to notice that the sound is going to be outside of the speakers quite a bit. back and forth, a little bit back and forth here. Now, not only is the soundstage very, very wide, but the imaging is quite precise in the middle. You should be able to pick out each instrument and be able to point to it. Now, here comes the $64 question. What if you don't hear this, or you can't hear this? All of this stuff I've talked about, the circular, the three-dimensional, any of the imaging subject we've talked about, or the soundstage. What if you don't hear what I'm trying to describe for you? Well, there's one of two things. One is the most obvious and probably the quickest answer by anybody in the stereo industry would say your system is not up for it. You know, maybe you just don't have the quality system that can reproduce a full three-dimensional soundstage. And I'm going to say to that there's a lot of truth to that the better systems are better at imaging and soundstage. But there's another important aspect to this that no one seems to talk about, and that is until you've heard these audio phenomena, you don't know what they are, so you don't even know what to look for. I mean, until you experience musicians in space, and you sit down and have someone maybe even point it out to you, and say, listen, look at this. The sound isn't just coming from the speakers. I want you to concentrate on the fact that the sound is coming from other areas. I want you to learn. I want you to train your ear to realize that the sound isn't just coming from one spot or from two spots on the speakers, but it's being distributed. So there is a learning curve to this. And I think that's understated. I think the learning curve is important because you have to learn to listen for these things. It's certainly important from a perception point of view because the way our brain works is, you know, it's not so much we're hearing the audio that's being provided to us as is we are constructing a representation or a data mapping to what that actual data is. So what we hear is a saxophone, and what we hear is a flute, and what we hear is an ensemble that is playing over width. Or we don't hear that because we're not used to a stereo system that allows us to hear that. I mean, maybe when we look at this and we hear this for the first time, we don't hear anything that I've described simply because we've never experienced this before. This width of soundstage in front of a 2-channel stereo system sitting in your living room or basement. I mean, it's a great experience, but it takes a learning curve to hear these things, and as mentioned earlier, it really helps to have a good system. It really helps to pull your speakers out away from the walls, because one of the things that kills imaging and soundstage are the reflections from the speakers will send signals out to you directly, but then it'll bounce signals off, and you'll get the reflections to them. And the less you have of reflections, the more you can reduce them, the better the direct audio image is going to be, and thus your imaging and soundstage is going to be better. So that's why we pull them out of the room here a little bit to help with that. Okay, that's pretty a little longer than I normally run, but I thought this is a good test track to go through and some ideas. If you look in the description, of course, this is where this test track will be. You need to run the test track directly in order to hear the stereo imaging and soundstage. You will not hear it from this recording that we're making right now, and that is because I'm recording in mono. So you're not going to get the stereo image. So please, go check out your system. Check out your ears. Check out how much you know about all this stuff. And even if you think you know all about this stuff, there's always the ability to hear more. I mean, I continue to hear more, in audio, soundstage, and imaging than I've ever heard before. And I keep learning, and I keep learning more about it, and I keep hearing new and interesting things in recordings that I've never heard before. So this is well worth some time, an investment, because you'll be rewarded in the end. So that's it. This is Lance, the Fidget Speaker Audiophile. If you find value in this, hit the like button, please. Maybe subscribe. I appreciate it, everybody. Thanks. Talk to you soon.